Well, first, I don't count myself among the ranks of avowed atheists. And
Everybody, today we're going to be talking about something that's on a lot of people's mind. There's a lot of people that are staunch Christians, and that's me. And there's a lot of people who are staunch atheists, which I used to be. I can say that. And many of the times people believe, I don't believe in God because of science. Well, I have news for you. A lot of the arguments that I've had with people talk about they believe in the science. They don't believe in, and many of those people have zero science background whatsoever, but they believe in the scientists, is what they're saying. They're not saying, hey, I believe in science. They're saying, I believe the scientists. So I actually have a BS in biochemistry and a master's degree in information science and a doctorate in education. So I do have a lot of education. And then when I talk about something about that I do know, they say, you must not have learned anything in your college experience. You must have been a poor student. As a matter of fact, I was a great student, made great grades. So the argument's always like, you must be stupid because you don't believe what I believe, even though I couldn't take any of the courses that you did. So it's not about me, but what I want to, my point is, there are a lot of people who are devout atheists, and you have a right to be. I'm a devout Christian because I believe the science that I have seen, that I have studied, that I've done proves that it didn't just happen by itself. It's impossible. It's impossible. You get down to the biochemical level, you start looking at what's really happening all the way down to the biochemical level. It's impossible. And there's many people who say, we just haven't figured it out yet. So you're relying on the unknown of man to hopefully figure out something that could possibly not be. And you're actually putting your entire eternity at stake for that. It's a huge gamble, huge gamble. So we all know Neil deGrasse Tyson, being a physicist who I think sometimes jumps into spheres that he doesn't belong. But being a scientist, you have the ability to look at different subjects and subject matter and have a good understanding of it, even though you may not have either taken that course in your, say, physics. He's a physicist. He could understand the properties outside of the realm of his concentration, which I completely understand. I mainly focused on biochemistry, but I understand when I'm talking about things that are not solely biochemistry because there's a lot of crossover in gray area in chemistry. But there comes a time where it's like, I think he kind of oversteps his bounds a little bit. But in this fact, we're not talking about that. I think it's an important thing that he looks at himself a little deeper for a second. And I think everybody should. So let's hear what he has to say first about how much do we really know? And that's a good question. And we'll talk about it in a second. So let's look at this first.
And then you add up all of these sort of what these forces are doing in the universe. It's 96% of what's driving the universe. And all the forces of nature that we know and love, gravity, electromagnetism, the strong and weak nuclear forces, life, chemistry, biology, physics, that's in 4% of the universe. So we know enough about the universe to quantify our ignorance. So we know 4% of what's going on out there.
That's an important statement to understand. If you know 4% of what's going on out there, of what's out there, then then there's 96% that you don't know. So if you got to say, I matter of factly believe there is no God, even if you knew all the 4% that he says we know, he's saying we know as a collection of all the information that we have since that we've beginning of time. That's the entire library or collection of knowledge of man is what he's trying to say. And I think 4% is way too big, because he's talking about, we know about this and we know about this. I'll tell you right now that we don't know so much that he would say we know about life. No, we don't. No, we don't. There's so much that we're still trying to figure out about ourselves, our own bodies, how they work. We don't even understand what thoughts are. We don't even understand how we think or how we have consciousness. But we somehow know all about life and all about, say, psychology and what have you. No. Of that 4%, I think we probably know, I would say, altogether we might know 50% of the 4%, maybe even less. So that would be 2%, 1%. So that would mean we would know 98%. We would know there's 98% that we don't know. So we can definitively say we don't know poop. Right? So he's even admitting, so even if we would say Neil deGrasse Tyson is the library of all consciousness, which I think to some degree he might actually believe, and it's supported by all his fans. But even if he was the arbiter of 4% knowledge, he's self-avowing that he doesn't know crap. Because that's what 96% of the unknown means. And he's just, if we just want to say black matter is driving this, so we don't know this because it's just black matter. If we understood black matter, we'd know this much percent. I highly doubt that's the concept. And that's a strong statement to say we only know 4%. I think that's still too high. So let's see what he says next.
Now, I know you're an avowed atheist. How can you be so certain that there is no supernatural, godlike entity out there, given that we know so little?
Well, first, I don't count myself among the ranks of avowed atheists. And I'll give a fast example why. A friend of mine went up to fix the Hubble telescope, okay, on the space shuttle. And on my Facebook feed, I said, Godspeed to the space shuttle astronauts. And then in the comment thread, it said, I thought you were an atheist. How could you possibly say that? And so the fact that I gleefully said that and atheists complained about it, clearly I'm not an atheist. Okay?
What are you?
My favorite Broadway musical of all time is Jesus Christ Superstar, which I saw in real time in New York City. I don't know that atheists can, so I don't.
So is there a God then, Neil deGrasse Tyson? Are we about to have breaking news?
I don't know.
Is there a God?
Okay, so what I will tell you is that there are a lot of unknowns in the universe, but just because they're unknowns does not mean there's a deity in the unknown. If you're going to assign a deity to that which, it doesn't mean there isn't. That's correct.
So you're more of an open mind about this, right?
Everyone should. If the unknown is the unknown.
Everyone should be open-minded is exactly what he just said. Now he goes on to say, don't say you cut it off and you taking him out of context. I left a lot in there that I really didn't care about, talking about what his favorite play was and such. But he goes on to say that we've disproven things that people said God did, like talking about Thor and the lightning bolts, and we know that lightning doesn't come from Thor. Now there's a far stretch between somebody who says Thor makes lightning bolts as he sits up on Mount Olympus. It's totally different than saying that there is a superior being that is the uncaused cause. Now that's a totally different subject than saying Thor sits on top of Mount Olympus throwing lightning bolts. Now, I'm not going to debate anybody in the comments. You can comment anything that you want to, but I've gone into debates before and they just devolve into anger. Not on my part. There's people that all they want to do is call me ignorant and stupid because they're so much more enlightened and intelligent than I am, obviously. So, but the point that I want this video to make is you can't be aware of your ignorance and then make pure factual statements that I know for a fact because of science there is no God. When in fact, number one, you probably know no science. You probably only know what you were taught in high school. You may have taken a course here and there. Maybe you did. Most people haven't. but they fully rely on what other people and many times have been disproven of. And they believe it as fact. And they don't even understand some of the methodology. They're not even willing to take the time to understand. They're not willing to take and listen to the other side to see what they have to say and then compare it against what's out there. And so that's the only way truly to understand whether or not you do believe that atheism is the only way, or you do believe Christianity is the only way, is to take your argument and see somebody who's very good at that argument against somebody who's very good at the alternative to that argument, and see when they collide with the information that they have and the information that they can provide, whether or not the source that you believe holds up. And so there's so many people that will listen to me or listen to another person talk about, evolution or chemical evolution or cosmological evolution or anything like that, and then say, I don't believe it, and never look into the facts themselves, never just take the science and look at what's there. Because many times, and I've even made a video into the textbooks where they say, we don't know it's true or not, we don't know it's real, this is our best guess. I've actually pointed that out in one of my videos, and you can look at it, and I'll see if I can tie it to this. But in multiple science books, they say when it comes to life, when it comes to the beginning of life, they don't know how it happened. But their best guess is this. And then I get attacked saying I'm ignorant because I'm reading the multiple textbooks out of context. And again, just like Neil deGrasse Tyson is, these people that wrote these textbooks are aware that they don't know. There's no proof of it. And they're being open with that. But we close our eyes to that because that might mean there's a possible alternative. And we can't have that. We can't have that because it's going to go against not what I believe, but it's going to force possible ethical and moral statements upon me that I don't want to believe. And the argument generally boils down to, I want to be my own God, and I want to do what I want to do. I don't want there to be a God with rules, because if there was, I wouldn't be in control of my own life. But when in fact you are in control of your own life. Because when you choose not to take the time to know whether you are your own God or if there's really a God out there, you're totally in control of your own destiny. And there's nothing wrong with that. And that's what free will is. And that's the great thing about God, is why doesn't God just show me he's here? And why don't he just send this to me or do this or whatever, and then I'll believe him? Well, that would take all of the ability of faith, trust, free will out of it. It would eliminate that entirely. And so in order to have that bestowed upon you, life is the way it is. And so there's always going to be some form of faith that's going to be propping up your belief system, your worldview, whether it be Christianity or whether it be atheism. There's going to be an element of faith that you have to stand on. And if you're willing to stand on science, and I would avow to most of the people in the world, the science that you don't know, the science that you can't do, the math that you don't understand. Take a textbook and all the textbooks out there, you say, I believe in it, but you've never read them. You don't want to know what's in it. They just tell you something and you digest it and fully believe it because they must be smart. And then other people would say, well, you only believe in what men say in the Bible they say from God. Yeah, but And there's some profound statements in there that God did, or God could do, or God will do. And what I do is I stand on the faith that I believe through my personal experiences, through my scientific knowledge, through the experiences of other people, through historical information and whatever, that it's true. And I'm willing to take the risk on that, knowing that there's an eternity out there. And some may say, I'm going to die and just turn into stardust. Okay, that's great. If I die and I just turn into stardust, I lived a life where I thought it was the most moral that I could be. And it wasn't just for myself. And if you die and you don't become stardust, you live the life that you wanted to live. And it may not have been just for yourself. But there's a long, 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 long time what eternity is, if that truly exists. And you're going to have to somehow overcome your opportunities that people have given you to listen, like right now. I didn't listen to that guy. I thought he was a complete and total idiot. Here I am, because I didn't take the time to look into myself, to actually take the time to question, to wonder, to make sure that I was going and believing the right thing. I just wanted to believe what I wanted to believe just because it was easier. Don't be that guy. You don't have to listen to me. You don't have to listen to me. Just take your time and do some research. That's what I'm saying. 96% you don't know. You don't know. And of that 4%, I should say, how much do you know? How much have you studied? How much have you learned? How much math do you know? How much have you followed down the path of biochemistry to understand these things that they're saying do or don't control the way that we operate as living beings? God loves you. He's coming back. I believe in you. I fully have faith in you as a person. And I hope that one day that you learn that science was given to us by God to understand him better and to understand the world that he provided for us. That's what it's for. It's not to disprove him. Not to disprove him. God bless.